do have a rapid fire session where we don't have long answers, but we try and cover very briefly as many answers as possible. Good. Any question? Anything?
Guruji. You seldom speak about existences on other so-called planes. Could you comment on possible other states of limited awareness of entities as either man or other entities as a multi-dimensional being?
Spooks? Now, in reality, there is only one existence, but people do talk of planes of existences. Now, what are planes of existences? Now, if in reality there is only one existence, how can that one existence be subdivided into many existences? Now, viewing this from a universal level, you would find various gradations of the very same one existence. If you go on a plane flying low over the ocean, you'd find some waves higher, some waves lower, and at other places the sea is very calm. Now, it is just but one existence, one sea, and the various gradations of the waves are perceived as different existences. So this means that there is only one consciousness, but because of the forces of evolution, many aspects of that one consciousness can be found. Now, in these very planes of existences, you'd find that this world, this planet of ours, is duplicated, replicated, and there are thousands of worlds, millions of them just like ours. So never ever fear of a population explosion. Okay. Now, there are planets where there are people just like us. And then there are other planets where people are of a more highly developed nature. There are planets where verbal communication is not necessary, and just by thought one could make one's thoughts known to another. They get received, they get picked up. You'll find this in science fiction, but science fiction too is based upon some fact. For example, if you read the stories of Jules Verne, he had described flying aeroplanes and submarines many, many years before they were discovered. So like that, science fiction also contains some truth. So this means that there are higher intelligences than us. Now the theory about UFOs, for example, many people have cited them, but many governments have tried to suppress this knowledge, saying that they are just illusions created. But there is some truth. There are higher intelligences that are trying to contact us for the purpose of preserving peace in this universe. Because the way, as I told you in this week, I think, that with the modern inventions and man's total attention upon mind development and not on heart development, this very knowledge given in the hands of immature people meaning heartless people, could create a terrible catastrophe which will affect other planets in this universe. So these are higher intelligences which are true. Likewise, there is a lower world as well, lower worlds as well, lower worlds of kingdoms where the intelligences are not as great as ours. Therefore, in this vast continuum of evolution, We are just at one particular stage. So therefore, there's a higher level and a lower level. But one advantage man has is this, that he can live in all these dimensions simultaneously here and now. In Sanskrit is called Trikara Gnana. That means knowledge of all time and all space. And within the so-called time and space, all these worlds are contained. So man, while in this embodied form here on this earth, can know and experience all those existences. Man can sit here and, by certain forms of meditation, can reach all those levels. So therefore we say, heaven and hell are here. Because man has the capacity to experience both. The animal kingdom that we have here is also a different dimension of living within the same consciousness. What makes one person a more highly developed being on this planet or another is the unfolding of his consciousness. So on other levels of existence, there are beings who has a much higher unfolded consciousness. According to some of the Hindu beliefs, you have people like Gandharva-loka, celestial beings. Then you have the angel kingdoms, and they are all true. It is not a fixture of imagination. And there are other kingdoms within a relativity and relative forms of existence, which is called Brahmaloka. Yet that is not the finality. It is still all contained in this universe. Now, when man has the ability to know God, to experience God, then also he has the ability to experience the creation or the manifestation known as the universe. So, it is totally true that there are other existences, there are other planets, and there is life on each and every planet. Perhaps not human life as we know it, but other forms of life. And where there is life, there is evolution, and there is consciousness. Okay, so next.
Guruji, going back to what you were talking about last night about nuclear energy and the present world situation, is there any useful purpose being served by the many peace movements that are springing up at this time, such as Mothers for Peace, CND, and so on?
Yes. There is a useful purpose being served by these organizations, but the use is very limited. The people involved in those organizations themselves will benefit. But the present tendency that is there can only be changed if there's a far, far greater awakening. Far greater awakening where the hearts could develop. So these various organizations that are doing their jobs for greater and greater peace are definitely of great use, even to a limited number of people. But unfortunately, the people at the top that control these powers and these energies and these nuclear weapons, they really have to have a change of heart. And funny enough, they're only there because people have elected them to be there. So what is the standard of the mentality of the population that elects them? That is the big question. Do people really study the man before they go and cast their votes? Very few do. People vote mainly because Uncle John is voting for this man and cousin so-and-so is voting for that man, so I'm going to follow. And then people are subjected to high-pressured publicity. So the mind is conditioned to cast certain votes. If you use a particular brand of toothpaste, have you ever asked yourself why you're using that particular brand? What do you know of the chemical components of that particular brand? Nothing. But because so-and-so whom you respect is using it, you take it for granted that it is good. Because the advertising media, through very clever salesmanship, is forever throwing that name, ABC toothpaste, to your face all the time. So you become conditioned. So as soon as you go to the supermarket, your hand would reach for that particular brand of toothpaste. And the supermarket people are also very clever. The line they want to push would be in a certain color. And that color is most appealing to the human eye and could register very well because everything gives off impulses. Have you watched a little baby? You give him so many colored toys and he'll go for the red one first. Because certain impulses are powerful that enters the retina and could register on the mind. So in the same way, people's minds are conditioned on who to vote for and how to vote. And yet you find people standing up in politics will make you the world of promises, and very seldom is any promise fulfilled, because they know themselves that they are in such an economic system, econo-political system, that they cannot do otherwise. So where is the hope of stopping them? Where is the hope for disarmament? Where all these inventions and nuclear forces could be put an end to. So they will happen, they will go on and on, but it is just for man in his individual capacity to unfold himself spiritually, to integrate himself, where he can enjoy the peace and look at the world totally, objectively and fearlessly. That's the only way.
Following on from what you just said, given that BMS can't change the world and what it's to be, from a teaching point of view, how much effort should our teachers put into spreading BMS, or how much should we try to concentrate on self-development?
Beautiful, beautiful. Every ounce of your energy. So don't think of changing the world. There have been many people, many great leaders in the world that tried to change the world, including Hitler, Napoleon, Alexander the Great. Study history. They all tried to change the world. And so Hitler tried also to change the world according to his ideologies. Do we have any Jewish people here? Put your hands up, don't be shy. Nevertheless, doesn't matter. Hitler went to a fortune teller and he asked the fortune teller, when am I going to die? So the fortune teller says to Hitler that you will die on a Jewish holiday. You will die on a Jewish holiday. So Hitler says, how can you say that? So the fortune teller replies that the day you die will always be a Jewish holiday. Yes. Our efforts should be concentrated not on changing the world, but changing man. For we all form units of one collective whole, and if any change could ever be brought about, would be by changing the unit. So therefore our appeal is based on an individual basis. On an individual basis, where man can improve himself, find that togetherness within himself, and find happiness within himself. And whatever happens in the world can be affected to some degree by this. Now, if some people are injured in these catastrophes, or these calamities, then the person who has developed his heart, opened his heart with love, he would be the first one to try and serve those that are afflicted. What a great service that is. If we can't change the entirety of the world, at least we can contribute by becoming better people. For there it starts with us. Every bit of unfoldment that we have found, every bit of unfoldment that we can find rather, and betterment in ourselves, we are automatically doing something for the world. It is the nature of the flower to be beautiful, that is true, but at the same time it also enhances the beauty of the garden. So, a person in his individual capacity, if he becomes a better person, he must cast some reflection of that in his environment. So it is not in vain, not in vain. Now that man could say at his deathbed, well lived this life, well lived. What more do you want? For you have to go alone. You know, Nasruddin had a nephew called Jainuddin. He phoned the theatre one day and he wanted to take his girlfriend to see a show. So he phones up and he says, "Could I have a box for 2, please?" So the answer on the other side of the phone, the voice said, "We haven't got boxes for 2. And he asked, "Aren't you a theatre?" So the voice said, "No, we are the undertakers." So remember, there's only a box for 1. You go alone. You go alone. Next.
The way it's worded here is, could you please explain the reasons behind the new teaching system, or the reason why it changed to its present format?
That question is best answered in our teachers' meeting, which is held when, Peter? Monday morning, I think it is? Yeah, Monday morning. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Can you please explain the Tratak for us?
Yes, this will be of general interest to meditators. Tratak is a very, very important practice for many, many reasons. Now, you've been taught how to do the Tratak. Wherefore you sit still, relax, and then slowly the candle is at eye level, a few feet away from you. You sit comfortably and you don't stare at the candle. You just gaze effortlessly at the candle for a few moments, few minutes, as long as you like, and then you close your eyes and visualize the flames there. That is the procedure. When the visualization, the flame disappears, you open your eyes, look again, and close your eyes, and you visualize. Now this you do for about half an hour. Now what are the benefits of this exercise which has been practiced for the past 5,000 years? Firstly, it opens your third eye, the Ajna Chakra. It's an exercise for the Ajna Chakra. Now, by opening the third eye, you develop a greater awareness of things around you. So here you don't now see with two eyes only, but you begin seeing with the third eye and seeing in greater depth. This flower you see with two eyes will assume a far different proportion when you see it with three eyes, because you will be able to see far deeper than the surface value of the flower, and the flower becomes more beautiful to you. Now, in everything we do in life, concentration is required. Now, the difference between success and failure is concentration or lack of concentration. So here, without concentrating, you are developing concentration. That means all your mental energies are brought to a focal point. Now, it's an important spiritual practice by having a concentrated mind. It helps you in your daily work. Never mind what work you do. You can be a professor of mathematics, it will help you, or you can be a carpenter, it will help you. You have a one-pointed mind. And a one-pointed mind has far greater power than a laser beam. Then, when you have to direct good thoughts to others with a one-pointed mind, that has greater effect. Now, science has proved that with this exercise, the pineal gland is also stimulated. The pineal gland is situated just somewhere here. Now, the third eye is the subtle counterpart of the physiological pineal gland. Western science has not found all the things that the pineal gland can do, because the pineal gland, being situated in the brain, can only be taken out when a person dies. And when a person dies and the brain is taken out, and the pineal gland being very small, being found, it becomes calcified. So not very many discoveries can be made of the pineal gland itself. But one thing has been found, that through the practice of Tratak, the pineal gland is stimulated. And in this stimulation, it secretes a minute amount of a substance called melatonin. Now, melatonin is a substance that regenerates and rejuvenates your whole glandular system. So, we have seen that Tratak has its benefits psychically. By developing this greater awareness, it's one of the first steps to clairvoyance. It benefits you psychically, it benefits you psychologically by having a concentrated mind, where by having the mind so concentrated that you can push away negative thoughts just easily. Without a concentrated mind, you can't do that. So it benefits you psychically, psychologically, and by the secretion of the melatonin substance, you benefit physiologically. So there's a psychological benefit, psychic benefit, physiological benefit, economic benefit, that so many things can be achieved and accomplished with a one-pointed, razor-sharp, concentrated mind. And when all these things are concentrated, then automatically the spiritual self of man shines forth. You see what great benefits there are. Now, by practicing Tratak and by having a concentrated mind, your mantra meditation will also improve, because it works hand in hand. When your mantra meditation improves, your Tratak practice improves. So it is a very, very important practice. Now, why do we use a candle? It is because the retina of the eyes carries a after image. But that after image lasts only for a few seconds. But that becomes an encouragement to practice Tratak. And then visualization begins. Visualization is a very important aspect of anything you take on in life. If man finds the ability to visualize completely, he can perform miracles. He can perform miracles. Because if you can do something totally and see something totally in visual form, in visualization, in your mind, that very object can materialize. I know, I'll give you a story of my own. When I was in business, and I wanted a contract with a particular difficult customer, the very night before, I used to visualize this man completely. I used to visualize him with what color suit he will be having on. I used to visualize him with his pen in hand. I used to visualize him clearly signing the contract. And I know he's a difficult customer. And what I'm offering him is something good. But because of certain biases, he was difficult. And yet next morning when I would go there, no problem whatsoever. He'd be having that same suit on that I visualized, that same pen in his hand, sitting in the same way in his office chair, and he's to sign the contract. You see the power of thought, the power of visualization. I get letters from many, many of you all around the world that are ill. They write me of a problem. I take out their file, look at their picture, and I visualize the person totally clearly. And in that visualization, I send forth that visualization. Never mind how many thousands of miles the person is living far away from me. But in that visualization, a direct link is formed through which the good thoughts of health and spiritual energies are sent to that person. Without the means of visualization, this cannot be done. So, then the person, never mind how far he is, because in that dimension, in the subtler dimension through which these energies flow, knows of no time or space. It's like using your telephone and phoning from here to South Africa or to America or anywhere. Instantly, the sound waves travel. And so, your thoughts also travel on certain subtle waves, and the person receives those energies and become healed and helped. And then they reply in return, "Oh Guruji, thank you so much, I'm feeling so well, so better. You've performed a miracle." My foot, no miracle. It's a natural law that can be exercised. When I do healing on many people, they feel better. What am I doing when I close my eyes? I become a channel for the energies of God. At the same time, I have you so clear there in front of me, in my mind's eye. So those energies pour through me to you, and you're healed. You see the principle, how important Tratak is. Now, many of you, I'm glad you asked this question, many of you neglect this practice. Don't neglect it. And then many of you have such beautiful experiences. I was speaking to someone this afternoon rather, in an interview, and the person was telling me of the beautiful radiant colors that she sees And having that mind so concentrated in a totally... Now, concentrated mind does not mean a tense mind. A truly concentrated mind is a very relaxed mind. And in that state of relaxation, all beautiful things are heard, are seen, some lovely experiences, although those are not, of course, necessary. But that is quite encouraging to many people. You see the importance of such a simple thing. And funny enough, all spiritual practices are very simple. The more complicated spiritual practices are, don't trust them. All spiritual practices are simple. The path to divinity is very simple. Now this Tratak, as with other practices, are an aid to you to unfold yourself to the divine energies of God. You see how important these things are. So when practices are given to you, remember they are given with great thinking involved, great experience involved. For a true guru will only give a chela, some practice or whatever, for his benefit. Otherwise he's wasting his time. You see. And the duty of the chela is to do it, to be obedient, to do it for their own benefit. The guru doesn't come along with a stick and say, hey, have you done it or not? Or come, sit down and do your practice. No, it is your free choice. It's the greatest gift of God. These are gifts that are given for the benefit of humanity. So therefore, as the previous question, that's the way we help people. And you in turn help others. It becomes an ever-widening circle, like a pebble thrown in the pond with ever-widening ripples. And the ripples extend to the edge of the pond. In our case, the ripples extend to the vast ends of the universe. Do you know every word you speak is still floating around in the universe? People that have uttered any form of sound is still existent in the universe, even if it was spoken thousands of years ago. The words of Krishna and Christ are still alive and reverberating in this universe. So if we develop that refinement, if we refine our minds to such a level, we can pick up all that knowledge existent in the universe. For your mind is the universe. You see. But the mind has to be trained for the purpose of knowing the truth that is within oneself. Many teachers say the truth is hidden. The truth is so open. Just to see, just to take off those blinkers which we have created ourselves and put on ourselves. Good? Okay. Next.
Guruji, can you follow that up with an explanation of the mandala technique?
There are people here that are not doing mandala yet, and okay. I don't think it would be...
It's okay. I can think of another one.
Don't ask me now about mantra meditation.
Sorry?
Don't ask me about mantra meditation now.
Oh, all right. Can you please...
And neither pranayama. Because then what are the teachers going to do? Because these explanations on techniques, all our teachers are well trained and qualified to answer these things.
Could I ask you on clairvoyance and its uses and misuses?
Mhm. Uses and misuses, it is useless. Why do you want to know what's happening on the other side? Why do we want to know that? A man came to me once. He says, Guruji, teach me clairvoyance. So I questioned him. I said, why do you want to learn clairvoyance, my son? And after a long talk, I got the truth out of him. You see, he was very jealous of his girlfriend. Now, while sitting at home, he wanted to, by clairvoyant powers, know what his girlfriend is going to do or is doing. You see? So it can be misused. Why dabble in occultism? All this clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry, vertikinesis, all these things are very low powers. And misusing these occult powers is called black magic. And using it for a good way, perhaps, is called white magic. That's the difference. Same energy. But beware and be warned that by developing these powers, you are stopping your spiritual growth. Because you would get so tied up in the various alluring ramifications of these powers that you will forget the path. If you leave your front door and you want to reach the gate to go to the office, but the garden has such beautiful lawns and flowers, it is good to look at them, admire them, but not get stuck there. Your job is to reach the gate. Man's job is to reach God and the divine. So no great master. And this is one thing which I had a tiff on with Maharishi, that tried to teach people levitation. No great master has ever said to anyone that learn these occult powers, because they could be a great hindrance. And if it is in the hands of a wrong person, he can do a lot of harm to others and much more harm to himself. All joy would be gone. There's a nice book which many of you might have read, Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. Yes. There it describes an experiment in Russia where one Russian woman could sit at a few feet away from an object and just by thought force move the object, or separate the white and the yellow from an egg. But she is a totally unbalanced, nervous wreck. Okay. These things are very dangerous and not to be dabbled in. Now, on the spiritual path, as you become more and more unfolded to the spirit within yourself, you will find a lot of these things, abilities coming to you naturally. Observe them, enjoy them. They just come automatically. You don't go for it. So they come, observe them, enjoy them, but don't be stuck there. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, and any of these occult arts, I would not advise anyone to dabble in them. I could teach you all these things. Very easy, really. Within 3 months, I can make you clairvoyant, clairaudient, and all that. This is wrong, dangerous, bad. Okay. Next.
When speaking of personal and the impersonal God, Ramakrishna sometimes used the phrase instead, God with form and God without form. Now, I personally don't find it difficult to accept the concept of God without form. But when I start thinking of God with form, then I ask myself, what form and where? And I wondered if you could say something about that with reference also to how this ties in with the avatar.
Now comes the nice questions. Reserve, I won't do you justice by speaking on that just for a few minutes. Sid is a very well-read man. He has such beautiful kindness and softness, humility. Reserve that question for tomorrow morning, so I can speak about an hour and a half on it. All right. You can listen to the tape recording. Fine. She's leaving tomorrow for the day. A beautiful question. Remember it. Ask it to me tomorrow. It's really lovely. The personal God, the impersonal God. How does the avatar come about? And what is the difference between the manifester and manifestation? And how does the avatar act, behave? And how he could take all the loose ends of the world and tie them together. It's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, tomorrow. Fine. Thank you. Next. Pardon?
Giving you a lesson today.
Thank you. Yes, he took a fitting for me today. These are about breaking down. He's going to make a new pair for me. Must be the best.
Could you tell us a little bit about the law of grace?
Yes. The law of grace. If you can explain directly the law of grace, then you can explain God. Because God is grace. But you can explain it indirectly. You plant a seed. Now, for that plant to grow, it requires the exact amount of sunlight. It requires the exact amount of water. Too much water will kill the plant. It requires to draw from the ground the exact kind of minerals for that flower to grow, for that plant to thrive. Now, what intelligence or what power is there that brings to the flower all these things in its proper quality and proper quantity? That is grace. Now, can man draw grace to himself? That is the vital question. Man can. How can he draw grace to himself? Is by purifying himself. Man does not need so much man-made morality. These are laws made by man. Something which is moral in one land might be immoral in another land. Customs change, and those are certain sociological laws to preserve, a kind of social stability. But purity is something different. Purity is of the heart. The core of the human personality is the heart. And when that heart becomes pure, it shows itself in kindness, love, compassion, the willingness to serve. It develops an empathy When we say Jesus suffered, when we say Jesus suffered for us all, that is very true. He suffered because he saw our suffering. When we say he died for our sins, it means that giving us the way to overcome our sins, he died. He sacrificed himself to show us the way and the life, which is the truth. Don't you see? So all these things fall under what we know as grace. I've said this many, many times. You take one step towards divinity, and divinity takes 10 steps towards you. I was telling someone this afternoon, you cry for fresh air, fresh air, fresh air. Open the window. It comes in automatically. But if you keep the window closed, how's the fresh air going to come in? Just that little effort of opening the window will bring in the fresh air. So grace comes automatically to you if you become receptive to it. Like prayer too. People don't really pray. They bargain with God. I've said this before, I think. You say, if my son passes the exam, I will donate £100 to BMS. Donate the £100 first, and then leave it to him. You see, don't do business. So prayer is a complete offering of one's self. Prayer is purification of oneself. That is prayer. Not business. So, when do people pray? They pray when they're in trouble. Otherwise, they don't pray. Only when they're in trouble they want to pray. Now, when they're in trouble and they pray, the prayer is non-effective. It doesn't help you. When you pray when you're in trouble, it does not help you. Because the trouble so overwhelms your mind that the power of prayer cannot reach its goal. Prayer only comes or has value when the mind is quietened down in tranquility. Then the very thought that would arise has some power. Not when the mind is in turmoil. So, all the prayers are mostly requests. God, please give me this, or please give me that. Requests. Why must you request of God? Why must you ask of divinity what you want? Doesn't He know your needs? He'll give you exactly what you need and not what you want. And your want is determined by how sincere you are. A man needs, say, £2,000 to live a month. Good living, perhaps. But he'll ask for £1 million. The idiot. You see. So, the best way to prayer is first request. Have your request. Doesn't matter. After all, we're all human. Not knowing that we are gods on earth. We're human. Right. So have your request by all means. But do it with a tranquil mind. Meditation first in our system. And then have the requests. That if you think, my Lord, that this is suitable for me, then may I have it if I deserve it. May I have it if I deserve it. I leave it in your hands. I leave it in your hands, so this means thy will be done. Do you see how beautifully it can be done? Now, if one has that purity and that mental concentration and strength done by meditations, Tratak and mantra and pranayam and guru shakti and all those things, and the system is purified, then you don't even need to pray. How do you like that? You just think of something and it happens. You just think of something and it happens because with a purified mind you will not think of something that is wrong. You see, your thoughts will always be right. And when thoughts are right, actions are right, and everything that you need will be fulfilled. The young lady comes to me. Why are you crying, my love? God bless you. If you have any trouble, it will be gone. Good. Yes. A young woman came to me and she tells me that I meet so many nice young men, and each and every one, a pretty girl, intelligent girl, and every man I meet has other designs on me, but not one of them would propose marriage to me. Why are the men so terrible? They're animals. So I tell her, the men are not terrible, you are terrible. You are terrible. She says, Guruji, why? I says, because the kind of thoughts you're thinking. Your thoughts are totally selfish all the time. You're hunting and trying to grab a man. And the more you do that, the more you repel them. So, thoughts create an atmosphere around you. Thoughts create an atmosphere around you, an aura around you, if you like to call it that. And that aura can be very attractive to people or very repulsive to people. I says, because of your, I tell this young lady, because of your conditioning, because of the attitudes you have of what you want from a man, that is chasing those men away from you. Yes, they'll have a nice time if you go to parties, etc., etc., and show you the etchings in his apartment, Yeah. But they won't marry you. Then I gave her some practices, how to neutralize the mind and create a more healthy atmosphere around her. And she's happily married today and has 2 children. And very good, you see. So nothing is impossible. Why do some people, this is all grace I'm talking about. Why are some people just too lovable? Why do you all love Guruji? Why? Why? Is it because I'm good looking, I'm ugly as a... No. You love because I love you. Because I exude that love from me. And although you can't see it, you feel it. But here I am, face to face, all with someone that does not even love, but he is love. That's why you love me. Now every person can do this. What I can do, you can do. We're all human. That is grace. That is the invisible grace portrayed in a tangible form through the human being. You see. I can go on and on. That's enough for now. Next question.
Guruji, you were talking about, I might burst into tears, don't take any notice. You were talking about purification. I think it can be a very painful process, but lots of people would say, no, it isn't, it's not necessary, it's easy, it's so simple. It might be simple when you're purified, but it isn't when you're not. So, what do you say about that?
True. I think I did use an analogy here. You just came for the weekend. Yeah. Well, during the week here, I used an analogy that if a cloth is dirty and it gets washed, with all the scrubbing to get the dirt out, and the chemical detergents thrown on it and thrown in it, and it being soaked in it, what great pain that poor cloth must be feeling. But through that pain, the cloth becomes clean. But through spiritual practices, when we develop the proper perspective, then it would not seem like pain anymore. Because every pleasure contains pain in it, and every pain contains pleasure in it. See? Two men who were digging holes. So, one was approached and he was asked, what are you digging for? He says, I'm digging a grave. When the other man was approached and asked, what are you digging? He says, I'm digging the foundations to build a cathedral. Same act, same painful digging, but the attitude of mind. So, when a person suffers pain, then always remember he deserves to suffer that pain. I'm sorry I'm hard tonight. When a person suffers pain, remember he deserves to suffer pain because he has brought that pain upon himself. No one else can bring pain to you. No one, and no one can bring pleasure to you either. It is you that experience it, and you rely or get influenced by the external happenings that give you pain or pleasure. So even physical illness, mental illness, family troubles and pains, and all kinds of things. The pain of losing a loved one. That's all because of our understanding. All because of our understanding. So if we develop that strength by spiritual practices, that which would be seemingly painful to others will not be painful to us. Yeah. I underwent an open heart operation. The sticker is not functioning properly. I suffer severe diabetes. I've got to take an insulin injection every day. People say, oh, Guruji must be in such pain. But me, no pain. It's a joy. So fun. So let this heart be having its fun. Let me watch it. Because there's another force that can make you go on and on and on. That's a spiritual force. And that can be tapped. That can be tapped. Here in this health condition, you can ask Charles and a few of the people that came to fetch me. After a 24-hour journey from door to door, from my home to Heathrow Airport, I was bouncing out of the airport as if I've just got off the 5p bus ride. Fresh as a daisy. Well, Charles tells me, how do you do that? Well, others with that long journey, and I never sleep in a plane. Forget. Yet I'm fresh. Why? Why? Because beyond the physical and beyond the mind, there is the spiritual energy, and because of practices, spiritual practices, you can tap that energy. and be refreshed all the time. All the time. So, what is pain? What is pain? What is pleasure? And when we rise above it, you live in that joy and bliss. And then come what may. Sunshine or rain, it's all the same. Yeah, when we had bad rain, someone says, "Oh, look at the weather today." I say, "What's wrong with it?" Got to have that. Look at the good that's doing. It is because of the rain that you're having sunshine. It's because of the sunshine you're having rain. On both good, on both, two aspects of the same nature. So enjoy the rain. Listen to it pattering against the window. What a beautiful melody. You see, how we look at things, that is important. And when we develop spiritual strength, then our viewing, our perspective towards anything is always of strength. I'm so glad to see you going around so well. Lovely, you look well. You look well. Next.
Guruji, you're telling us often that we have all been together before. What drew us together in the first place other than love?
Love. Nothing else but love. Love is the greatest attracting force in the world. It's like a powerful magnet to iron filings that always draw together. Love forms a union, a cohesion, a unity amidst all the diversities of life. It is only but love, nothing else. And we have been together many times before. For you are just as eternal as I am. Yes, just as eternal. And everything about you is eternal. Nothing is ever destroyed. Your thoughts are not destroyed, your mind is not destroyed, your body is not destroyed. They can be cast off and transformed, as we spoke about it in this week, into different other elements. But it's not destroyed. So everything is eternal. And being eternal, there cannot be two eternities, can there? Only one eternity. And both of us being eternal, we are dancing in the same eternity. And so along the path, we held each other's hands. I think that time you must have been a pretty young girl. We have other religious groups here also having some conference. Now, there's one fellow, I don't know if it was from that group or our group, I don't know, but he was parading around in the front lobby here last night in his pajamas. So, this fellow in charge stopped him and he says, "Look, you can't do this, running around here in your pajamas." So this fellow woke up and he says, "But I'm so sorry, I beg your pardon, but I'm a somnambulist." So the man in charge replies, "Oh, you're not allowed to do this here, never mind what religion you are in." I got another joke for you. You see this, we're going to end now, aren't we? You see this pastor and this priest, now they had churches, practically opposite each other. One used to have bigger congregations and the other smaller congregations, and it went on like that, and they never used to agree with each other. There was some kind of jealousy between the pastor and the priest. So one day, someone like me came along and said, "Look, you're both doing the work of God. Why do you fight with yourselves? Why didn't you cooperate and be nice with each other? So they got together. They said, look, my friend, Mr. Pastor, and the other says, Mr. Priest, let us not fight. We're all doing God's work, and let us have harmony. So the priest says, I agree with you, that is true. You do your work in your way, and I will do my work in his way.